Welcome to the Global Spin Podcast with me, Ryan Cramer, where we take a deep dive into the world of global selling and share the secrets to growing your brand in new markets. Whether you're looking to expand your brand, enter new markets, or boost your sales, we've got you covered. Tune in for unscripted, engaging episodes that will take you on a journey of discovery and success. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Global Spin Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon e-commerce logistics space, whatever that might look like for your Amazon or e-commerce brand. We're going to bring those kinds of people into this environment, my corner of the internet, if you will, where I get to talk to those people and kind of elevate your brand. If you're new to this podcast, or if you're listening to our guest YouTube page or LinkedIn page, thanks for joining us today. This is somebody who I've admired for many years in this space, and I like to kind of reach out, and the whole point of this podcast is take your brand to the next level, right? Taking it to maybe one marketplace and growing it to another marketplace, or just how to elevate your brand and what it makes it feel like for a global brand. And over the time this is episode 12 that we've been doing this. So there's been some records, some live, but this person has been always fantastic on the spot, making sure we've answered live questions. So of course I wanted to ask her if she would be willing to do this live. So to our guest, thank you very much before we bring you out. But if you're new to this podcast, just quickly wanted to reach out and let our sponsor know this podcast is powered by and fueled by Frisbi. Frisbi is a global expansion company helping Amazon sellers grow to new marketplaces through product compliance, small parcel delivery, tax and registration. It's really easy to grow your brand, or it might be confusing to grow your brand, but really easy to work with the right partners and able to grow globally. So reach out at frisbi.com/the Global Spin Podcast to learn more information and catch our past episodes, as well as learn more about how you might be able to grow your brand with Frisbi. That being said, again, episode 13, which I'm really excited. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead and say hello where you're listening from. If you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, on my channels, or if you're on our guest channels on YouTube and LinkedIn, we appreciate that. Hello, where you're listening from, and what questions you might have. That's about beauty with platforms like this. You can ask your questions live about anything that you might have pertaining to our topic. But inviting her on, I've had her on. She's considered a friend of the show and friend in real life. She's been somebody who's been managing millions of dollars in ad spend across the board. And I'm a real big dummy when it comes to PPC and when it comes to how to grow your brand through PPC and all the different capacities of that world. So that's why I bring on a lot smarter people in this space, so I can ask those questions and get a little bit smarter. Hopefully, you can apply this to your brand today. But she's been a friend of the show in the past. People who've come on to my show, I call them friends of the show. She has an open invitation to always come back because of the information, knowledge, and insight she's always bringing. So if you aren't listening, taking notes, you should definitely be finding and recording this in some capacity. So without further ado, bringing on the show back for the first time to the Global Spin Podcast, but back in my corner of the internet, Elizabeth Greene of Jungler. Elizabeth, thank you so much for hopping on. Let me go ahead and
Hello.
there you go. Hey,
Thanks
welcome
so much
back
for having me.
Of course. We've kind of exchanged talking heads. I was the talking head to your audience a little bit ago.
Yes,
has been released,
right.
so I'll keep it a secret. But thanks for coming on and saying hello today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, your episode is in the works. We should have it out this Thursday, I believe.
I love it. Oh, it's coming out soon. So I had to make sure I get to the front of the line and release something with us before you, I guess. So,
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate you coming on. First and foremost, if people haven't heard of you, as they should, obviously, but if they haven't heard of you or Jungler or kind of the good work that you guys are doing in your agency, what's going on? And tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi, my name is Elizabeth Greene. I'm one of the co-founders along with my husband, although he is the behind-the-scenes partner. I'm definitely
the secret guy. Yeah.
The secret partner, the one that helps make all the chess moves in business. I just help make all the chess moves in the ads. So that's how
there you go.
We work well together. But yeah, so we are an Amazon advertising agency focused on helping brands grow their year-over-year sales through well-run ads.
That's very simple and straightforward. So,
Yeah.
with your background though, how long have you been in the Amazon and ad space though?
Yeah. So officially as an agency, I want to say we're like 4 going on 5 years now. I get asked that so many times, and then I'm kind
Right.
of like pull that number out. And I'm like, I should really go like look at like the actual stats on that because I know I definitely archived that information. I can pull it up.
Yeah, well, that's something that jokingly, this is something I think is funny of time in this space is
Oh
always
yeah.
irrelevant because we feel like we've been in it much longer than we have been. There was a quote that I didn't think that would be shared already, but here we are on another podcast I was on. It was I was trying to recall a time frame that I was for a specific message or something happening in the Amazon space. And I was like, maybe it was a year ago, maybe it's two. I wasn't sure.
Hmm.
Like it all feels like it's irrelevant because we age like dog years in this industry. Like 1 year feels like seven, so
Yeah.
it's really hard to recall. But supposedly that got a lot of laughs and a lot of notoriety. But it's true. It feels like the more and longer you're in the space, like times that by seven, and then that's where
Hmm.
we're at, like knowledge wise. So, what did you do before PPC? I guess what got you what brought
Yeah.
you into this? I should
So
say.
technically, as far as vocation goes, I went like straight from stay-at-home mom status to business entrepreneur, like
That's a
0
jump.
to 60 fast. So that was super fun. Although there's plenty of projects and things that I took on or helped my husband
Sure.
facilitate long before that. Part of that was, selling minimally on Amazon, which is how
Mm,
we kind of got like, oh yeah, there's this whole new world. I always liken it to like before you like peek or until you peek behind the curtain, you don't realize like the entire ecosystem that exists to like for people selling on Amazon or just to help support sellers on Amazon. There's like this entire world that unless you're really a part of it or know somebody who is a part of it, you have absolutely no clue how big it really is.
yeah, and that's the more I dig into it, there's just like pockets of like thousands
Mm-hmm.
of people that are you never engage with. And again, everyone who's saying hi on LinkedIn, thank you for saying hi and bringing us into your ecosystem for a little bit of the day. Everyone's so busy, and it's hard to just know everyone in the space. And I think it's so funny. Maybe you can attest to this. The more and more you talk about people, or you have like conversations offline, are like, "Oh yeah, I know all of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I listen or watch or anything of that sort." And it's a little humbling to me, especially, or to I feel humbled that somebody of that caliber or a big seller like that would listen. But obviously, there's no like posting or
Yeah.
rage out on social media or anything like that. But there's always people who are listening and watching, so I appreciate those people who are always a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit
for
tuned
sure.
in.
It's I get on a lot of calls and they're like, "Oh, I've been watching your stuff for like years," or I'll even get like every once in a while someone will pop on a call. They'd be like, "Oh, I feel like they get a little bit nervous," which is like so weird. I'm super flattered. Don't get me wrong, like
Right.
immensely flattered, but I'm still kind of like, oh, I can't believe, from me just being like, hey, let me answer a Facebook question, help you out with your Amazon ads because I know the answer. Like that's literally our origin story. So to go from that to like having people actually recognize who you are and then like respect what you're saying is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it all comes from a good place, right? It's never to like sell anything. It's more of a
Hmm.
hey, helpful and content. We've talked about that on your podcast a little bit too. Just like where service providers come from and where agencies come from. Like that origin is always really fun and exciting for me.
Hmm.
But let's kind of turn the page a little bit. For everyone who's new to this podcast, I do this unscripted. This is nothing where I send a bunch of questions or I say, "Hey, answer these five hard hitting questions that we're going to learn about today." I do an overarching theme, so today it's going to be ad gurus and leash, which I love I love and hate the word guru, but we're going to stick with it today. But conquering ad complexity for global e-commerce triumph. So, kind of thinking bigger, right? We're just coming off of Prime Day, which hopefully was a success for you and your team.
Hmm.
Quick recap, anything of note, by the way, that you guys saw or didn't see, or
Yeah,
successful, not
yeah.
successful?
Still crunching some of the numbers. So we're actually going to be doing a live, I think Wednesday, with a group that we're working on launching to like
Nice.
do maybe a full on recap. So that would be interesting. I posted about it today if anybody wants to go check that out. But I would say overall, like it was definitely successful, definitely a lot of growth happening for a lot of our brands. The one thing that I did notice is that some of the brands, not necessarily brands entirely, but the products. So if there was any products that were struggling with conversion rates already leading up into Prime Day, and then the sellers, mostly because like a product might be struggling on conversion rates, so therefore the profits are a little bit low on it. So sometimes putting an extra coupon on top of that is a little bit hard to stomach. So if there's any scenarios like that where again conversion rates are already struggling, and then those weren't helped through any sort of deal, which Prime Day is very much a deal oriented selling time, then those particular products didn't see a real heavy growth. But I would say that that's pretty much par for the course. Like if you're already struggling on conversion rates, you're not really doing anything to help bolster that. Those products are going to struggle regardless.
Right. And speaking of deals too, I know that it was kind of a couple screenshots that were floating around too of, hey, is it really a deal? What's not a deal? And I've had to deal with this in the past of, hey, arbitrarily, if you're listing something for multiple days beforehand, and then all of a sudden you throw in an MSRP and have it the same list as the sales price for what it's always been, it's an influctuation and an arbitrary discount, and it's
Yeah.
listed as a Prime Day deal. That was under an Amazon brand. We're not going to get too much into it, but those I saw frustrations being thrown around
Yes.
LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever it is. I know other brands have done this in the past, but that's a frustration of mine as always too. If I even talked to my wife, who she's like, "How do you understand if it's a deal or not?" And I go, "Well,
Yeah.
you can go to this website, you can go to Camel. You can have like Keepa, you can have all these things." She just looks at me with my like her eyes crossed. She's like, as a consumer, I don't understand. Like,
Yeah, you're like,
how am I
that's a little much for me to have
right?
to deal with as a consumer.
Well, right. And you're supposed to have trust in the marketplace you're buying from.
Mhm.
And if you see a sale, you think it's a sale, but that's what's
Yeah.
frustrating. I think it's always if it's on a list. This is the hack, if you will. If it's on a list, you throw the price on there. If it stays on that list, and our Amazon will always serve you, hey, it's dropped this much percent or whatever since you've thrown it on your list. So if you want to if you want to track it arbitrarily as a consumer, little hack for everyone, just have it on your list, have it kind of look around, or have it sit there for a long time and see if it just continues to drop or if it goes up higher. Or, if it drops a certain threshold, then I'm clicking and adding to cart and purchasing. So it's a little
It's
hack, if
definitely
you
a good
will.
tip.
Yeah. Cool. So in terms of conquering ag complexity for global e-commerce triumph, that's what we titled today. I'm I think a lot of our sellers who we work with are looking to take that next step forward, right? We've talked that could be anywhere from getting the products into different markets, making it available to people who that catalog might not have been available before, right? So from my perspective, Amazon is telling us we want catalogs to be as full as possible. We want big catalogs to be in all the markets and all the places all over the world. That's what Amazon's global sales team responsibility is, to make sure that they're getting sellers with lots of products in all the places possible, because that will generate sales. That makes available from not just in the US, that's available now in Canada, that's available in the UK, so on and so forth. When you start to think and work with brands who have to take those layers into consideration of different audiences, different marketplaces, is that scary to a brand when you're talking with them, or is that exciting? What's kind of that conversation in your mind that you're
Um,
having?
Probably a mixture of both. I think the most common feelings that I see is a lot of uncertainty. Um, Uncertainty of where they should focus, on what they should be investing on, yeah, just where it is that they're focusing. I
Sure.
know that was one thing that you and I talked about in our conversation. That again, plug, definitely go check that out. We should publish it on our channel
Subscribe and
Thursday.
follow her podcast. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go. But it's like, where should I focus, and recognizing that you as a business owner cannot do all things at once. Now, you can definitely build a team that can be over certain aspects of the business. So it's not that a brand in and of itself and those running the brand can't do multiple things at once. But you as a brand owner only have so much focus. And so it's just a matter of building up team members, or again, kind of shameless plug, partnering with agencies like ourselves to be able to like offload certain pieces of the business and then kind of understand, where are the fires, where are the things that need fixing or correcting, or maybe not just fires, like what are the things that are working really well, and then trying to determine how we can capitalize on those things. So definitely expanding into other marketplaces is a huge piece of that. And you also gave some like very good tips on looking at like say Product Opportunity Explorer or Amazon serving up like, hey, we really think that you would do very well in these markets.
Mhm.
So there is knowledge out there to be able to understand kind of where and how you should focus on things. And the one thing that I've been kind of talking about, because if you hear me talk for any length of time, you'll hear me mention the word strategy, like, oh, you should have a custom ad strategy and you should have a good strategy and everyone wants to know what their strategy. And that definitely, I think, is a piece of a lot of the Amazon brands that come to us. That's a piece of their uncertainty, is like, I feel like I'm sitting on this really good growth. I feel like, I'm kind of seeing some potential here. It's not a house on fire situation. It's hey, I'm really like, I have these very aggressive growth goals. Like some of them are even looking to get up to like, say, 20% year over year. I know a lot of people say like, maybe you can achieve a 10% in a market year over year. Looking at not just like aggressively launching products, just maybe launching a couple products or something. But there are some brands that can achieve like say a 15 to 20% growth year over year. That's achievable if you know what to do and you have the right products to do it. And that's the uncertainty, is what do I do and where do I focus? So strategy, I've come to learn, is not so much like this ambiguous, we're going to put together this huge chart of things. Strategy is actually figuring out priorities, recognizing that you only have so many limited amounts of time, and then looking at strategy as in, what do I prioritize to get where I want to go the fastest? Because that's the difference between a good and bad strategy. A good strategy will move the needle a little bit. The best strategy is going to move the needle a lot. And the difference is what level of importance is the things that I'm focusing on. So if you can find those things that are high levels of importance and you can find where you need to focus to move the needle the quickest, that's how you get there, and that's how you get there a lot faster.
Right. Well, that brings up a lot of good points, and it made me think of questions that I always have with people when you probably get this quite a bit. But when I think of strategy and growth strategy, a lot of people, they're always saying, hey, if I spend more, I make more money. And I feel like you brought up a good point of, no, it's not just like spend more to make more, it's spend more to make that margin grow, right? That investment grow, right? I think the example that comes to mind specifically for somebody that is also in the PPC space, Elias, he is always saying, if the equation of like, if I'm spending 10,000 to get 100,000, but I'm spending 20,000 to get 200,000, the margin doesn't grow. It's just you're spending more to make the same. Or like that bottom line is still the same in growth. There's not that y that growth exponent. There's just that flat line. You're just spending more money to get the same results. Is that what you're kind of talking about? Of you need to have a strategy to make sure you're just not like putting money down to get the same results. You want money down to see growth organically and make that margin grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's really the question that a lot of brand owners are asking when they come to us. They're like, hey, I want to grow, but I lack the understanding of where to focus. Because the thing is that at least how we view accounts and how we're able to kind of like achieve the numbers that we're able to achieve is looking at things as levels of importance and influence on the whole. Meaning what? So it's not necessarily how do I achieve higher sales growth. These people are dealing, when you're talking about complexities, it's about a very complex catalog. We deal with a lot of clothing brands, talk about a complex catalog. And so they're going, okay, so I've positioned myself for this, exponential growth factor, meaning I've invested in inventory in the things that I can tell have very good sell-through rates. But I'm trying to figure out, I have so many styles and colors and what moves the needle towards that growth. And so what we've started to realize just through gaining honestly, it's a lot of trial and error and trying to figure out, this is what the brands are looking to achieve. How the heck do I help them get clarity? Because I want clarity, because we want to manage the ads well. So this has just been like me and my team just in the numbers, in the data, in the analytics, like I said, going on 4 years now. And so what I've come to realize is it's not the brand or the account that technically grows sales. It is the products that grow the sales. So if you can look at it through that lens, then it becomes much clearer. So instead of saying, how do I grow the account sales? You say, which product has the most potential to impact my account sales growth? And then on top of that, going back to your profitability factor, then my second question is, okay, these are the ones that I feel like have the best growth factors with them. What is the efficiency of my ad spend? And then you can start to make very sophisticated moves. So instead of just looking at, this is my top seller, let me push it, I say, what is the efficiency of the ad spend on my top seller? If it is widely inefficient, and I simply, to your point, add more ad spend to it, I've essentially made everything in my account way more inefficient. Versus if I look at, where do I have growth factors and where do I have like excess efficiency in the ads, then if you push those products, you get the growth factor without the ad inefficiencies. And that's how you get exponential growth without completely losing your shirt.
Right. Well, I mean, that right there just put the whole value for the whole podcast. So everyone, thank you so much for joining in today. That was just such smart advice, because I don't think people just understand that component. Like, they don't look at it from that growth perspective. They just look at like the sales component. I love it how you broke it down to even further in that component of like, it's a product based, and that's going to drive, overall brand growth, and that just leads on to further growth and opportunities down there. Such smart. I'm gonna make sure that's bookmarked, and we keep putting it on a repeat for all of our clients as well. We actually did have a question come in, and I don't want this person to go unrecognized too. It's actually from LinkedIn. So how and if everyone has a question, feel free to throw this into myself or Elizabeth as well, and we'll have this for the length of our podcast, which is about a few, about half an hour more or so, or a little bit less. But we have the question: how does a person know when what's needed to go fast, and which tools and ways they have in order to adapt, and when they have no clue? Is that clear on what that question is asking?
I think so. So you can get a lot out of just the reports in the account. But you're going to want to look at business reports, and then something that marries the business reports with the ad data. My favorite option for that is the new bulk files, just because it's one report and you can download all of the different ad types in your account. Now, coming up with a system that marries the two and allows you to pull out actionable insights quickly is something that I've literally been puzzling over, like I said, for 4 years. And we've built actually a system that spits out a report. And I was talking with my account manager today. I was like, you know what? If we generated these 2 reports and then our new customer report, we could actually identify exactly where a brand needs to focus and grow, probably within the span of 20 minutes. Like, I mean, so we've identified some very
some markers, basically.
Yeah, so puzzled through those kind of questions, like, where do I need to focus? How do I look at things of a whole? So I would say the 2 things that I find most brands sort of miss out on when they're trying to do this like really sophisticated analysis, because I've consulted with some brands, they have like really insane analytics. Like, they're using tools to track ranking. They're identifying like, okay, so these products are like up, and this is how the ACOS and total ACOS have changed. And, here's where our keyword ranking changes. So if we change this keyword bid, this keyword ranking, and like, you can make yourself go crazy over looking at things like that.
Absolutely.
So the 2 things that I find that they miss is, 1, putting all of your products together, and then 2, identifying how the performance of those products relates to your business as a whole. So for the first one, it's simply aggregating all of your data. If you've got a spreadsheet that's got like all 20 of your products listed out on individual tabs, create a new tab and stack them. And to me, when I figure this out, it seems super simplistic, but yet it gives you such a detailed picture of what's really going on in your account, because you have to realize that each individual product is somewhat of a microcosm, meaning it's got its own market and it's got its own conversion rate and it's got its own, unique shoppers that are searching for the product. So all of these are going to focus, like when it comes to moving a product, you definitely have to look at it from that perspective, as it's like so microcosm. It's got its own keywords and things that we should be focused on. And there's a lot of people doing some really sophisticated analytics to determine that. But I think the thing that we're not relating it back to is how are each of these microcosms adding up together to create the cumulative performance that we're looking for as far as the brand growth. So I like looking at that, and then looking them next to each other comparatively. And then what I like looking at is, again, kind of how do these stack up and relate to the whole. So the way that you would do that is looking at percentages of total. That's like one of my new favorite calculations out. Simply saying this number divided by the sum of all these numbers, and what does that look like? So when it comes to, like, a lot of people, and I used to do this, like sort sales, highest to lowest, but you're going, okay, so this one's a lot higher. That's quite obvious. And these ones are kind of close together. And sometimes it's kind of hard to gain the real perspective, versus if I do this sales divided by sum of total sales, I go, oh, this is 50%, this is 34%, and this is 30%. And you can just immediately see that. The other way you can do it is looking at percentages of total ad spend, right? So my two favorite things to do, and this is one thing that like I said, we have a custom report for this, is looking at percentages of total sales, so impact of this product on my total sales. And then I want to look at percentages of total ad spend. What impact on the ad spend is this product? And then if I know the impact on the total sales and the impact on the total ad spend, I can then start to look at which are bigger pieces of the whole, and then what are the ad efficiencies of things. So looking at the ad conversion rate, the ACoS, the total ACoS, the ad sale percentage, which are all things that most of us are tracking on a per product level. But what this is doing is it's kind of looking at everything in total. And I don't know if it's a good name for it. I'm coining it the middle analysis. I think that sounds kind of, because I'm always like, there's the account metrics, and then there's the what are we doing with the ads. And I always felt that there was this piece missing. Like, I know what the account's doing, and I know that I'm trying to manage the ads in a way to be efficient, but sometimes gaining efficiency in ads actually doesn't translate to brand growth. So how can I look at the very nitty gritty of, we're bidding on these keywords, we're optimizing this, we're adjusting budgets for this, and then take a look at the overall account metrics and say, okay, when I do these things, this thing grows. When I do these things, this thing gains more efficiency. So I found, kind of looking at it from this perspective of pieces of a whole, ad efficiencies, and as it relates to the total cumulative ad spend, then I can start to say, okay, these are the three places I need to make moves. This is the one I need to pull back on, because this is where we have the most ad inefficiencies. And then it suddenly gains you perspective on, where should I be making these base changes, versus going and making all the base changes. And it turns out it was on the one product that was super efficient anyways. So you're not really going to gain much.
I love that insight and breakdown, Elizabeth. Would I ever have a campaign that would be a loss leader on purpose, so that it would drive those growth factors and levers in other ways? Like, for example, if my margins are, they're okay, or I can play around with them, what do I need to consider, or what should I look for in setting up so that that campaign is effective in that way of, hey, even though I might lose money on per sale, it's actually driving more sales to the other higher margin, products, or to my brand, in driving it in other ways. What would I look for in building a campaign like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you will see it normally when you do preliminary keyword research. So there are certain products, like say in more competitive markets, you can kind of get away with only targeting maybe the ones that convert best for the product, because there's lots of sales and search volume there. The ones that are honestly more difficult to advertise in are the ones where all of the search volume is really contained on, say, 1 or 2 keywords.
Gotcha.
In those cases, ranking on those 1 or 2 keywords is very, very important to the growth of that one product. Although I've started, again, it seems like, to me, it seems like the simplicity of like, oh, look at all the products together. Like, but there's something, a thought or that I came across, and just, again, kind of managing and trying to make sense of all these things, is the fact that oftentimes brands look at ranking to drive sales, when in fact ranking does not drive sales. Ranking drives sessions, which then drives sales. So I have this whole thing that I've kind of coined as like sales equals ranking doesn't equal sales, sales equals sales. Now in the scenario that I shared, where there's only so much search volume for you to be able to show up, and there's only so many keywords that have any level of shopper searching through them, then it is very important to the sales to gain ranking there. The reason is that there's no other places for me to gain that sales velocity or that visibility on the product, which then drives my sales velocity. So it is important from that aspect. This concept was really hit home for me once. We had a client, they're always up for like testing something crazy because they got a big catalog, and there's also some products that don't have, when you talk about like impact on the brand, they're not high impact products. So if something happened, the brand wouldn't be down as a whole.
Right.
And there was this idea floating around, I forget where they heard it, but hey, if you have a product and you really want to increase the conversion rates on, so context on this one product is we were somewhat struggling with conversion rates. And what they did is they only focused mainly on exact match for ranking purposes. And they only focused on the high converting keywords, and they simply pushed those. The goal is to, because you are increasing the conversion rates in the ads, and then because ads add up to a piece of the total sales volume, therefore you would be helping to influence increase on the overall conversion rate of the product while increasing your rankings. Well, that sounds good to me, right? So what we did is we simply pivoted the ads to, only focus on exact match, only focus on ranking keywords, with the goal of driving more conversions, with the thought that as we drive more ranking, as we have higher conversions, we are going to be driving sales. So at the end of the month, we did an evaluation, and we said, okay, conversion rates of the product went up. Good. We want conversion rates to go up for the products. Our rankings for the product went up. So that was good. But the thing that surprised me is that actually sales went down, which you would think like, well, rankings went up and conversion rates up. And everyone tells me if I'm ranking well, I'm going to go up. And everyone tells me if I'm converting well, I'm going to go up. What happened was sessions went down, traffic went down. So the idea that we only have to like be super focused on these very limited ad spots, and we need to only focus on exact match and rank, which again, I'm not saying don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, ranking is important, visibility is important, but recognize that ranking is a means to an end of get traffic to the products. Is not necessarily if I have ranking, therefore I shall make sales. It's where are you ranking? How important is that ranking? All the above. And what we had pivoted from was a strategy that used a lot of broad reaching, lower bid, maybe slightly lower conversion, but highly profitable, just kind of like shotgun it everywhere, and then also go sniper with our ranking. We pivoted to only going sniper with the ranking. And I realized that your ad account needs to be balanced. You need to be driving visibility profitably through maybe a more broader approach, and then also working to rank the products on certain places that make sense to. So that's kind of the strategy we use now.
Gotcha. And that question actually gave up a couple of them. Actually, I'm going to start with just explaining how it is not associated with sales, as we are currently seeing BSR, and mostly as minimum, the BSR is the more the
this
sales
is a great one. And I actually have another one for you, another anecdotal story. So this is the other thing that made me go, oh, sales equals sales, not ranking equals sales. The thing with BSR, okay, so ranking is determined by the sales velocity on a particular search term. That is why even if you have like the best BSR, somebody else can still beat you out on ranking if the market searching on that particular search query likes that your competitor's products
It's
more than
conversion rate. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's conversion rate, but conversion rate on that specific search page.
Yep,
Where
exactly.
BSR is simply sales in general. So here's another one. So the exact same account, we had another product, different product line, more important to the brand, had been maintaining the bestseller badge, right? We lost the bestseller badge because we were pulling back for profitability. And we still had a profitability, meaning a total ACOS mandate, but we're lost the bestseller badge. So of course that has a heavily impact on sales. And we're going, great. What do like we can't go super aggressive with this because we can't, dip into super unprofitable territory. But then again, we lost the bestseller badge. So it's kind of like a catch-22. What do you do? My gosh, I love my account manager. She's a freaking genius. What she did is she simply went into the account and didn't worry about ranking. Ranking was not on her mind. Her goal was, where can I get profitable sales? That's all she cared about. So what she went in is she said, where do we have high efficiencies in the ads, and where can I afford to get maybe a little bit less inefficiencies, or where can I raise budgets on things? So I'm talking low bid autos, low bid broad match, category targeting, all the things that you would never push ad spend into to rank. That's what she did, because she's like, we just need traffic, we need sales, and we need to get those as efficiently as possible. We got the bestseller badge, I don't remember it was 3 or 4 days it took to get back, with less than a point increase on the total ACOS. And so that was the other one that made me go, oh crap, BSR is sales. All it is sales. Again, rankings is a means to an end of sales, but that doesn't necessarily mean if I rank, I will have sales.
Right. There's always, they play off of each other. So it's hard to just quantify one without the other. But like you said, one has a bigger impact on the other one than vice versa.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Such a great insight. One more question actually from Jeffrey on YouTube. Thanks for listening on YouTube, Jeffrey. Do you ever track a comparison of changes in bids to changes in impressions?
Sometimes.
I'm assuming visibility versus spend.
So if we're trying to identify something, like if it's a major keyword that we are in fact trying to push rank on, this is me going, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We do make like aggressive exact match single keyword ranking campaigns. Like that is a core piece of our strategy. And especially if we have identified that there is a particular keyword that, to your point of, the goal is to maintain that visibility, and there's only like 2 or 3 keywords, and if we fall off on visibility here, like sales just go in the toilet, then we will probably be much more will be more sensitive to bid changes. So if we're making bid changes and these are on things that we've identified, I'm not going to be like, oh no, ACOS went up yesterday and I'm kind of waiting for it to equalize, so let me go chop the bid in half. Like we're going to be much more careful with our bid adjustments. And to your point of tracking impressions, sometimes I don't know if it's super important to track it meticulously. I mean, as far as specifically impressions go, we do have ways that we input specific targets. So in this case, it would be a keyword, which is something we have the ability to do, and then track what are the metrics for this particular keyword and then make our bid adjustments accordingly. So I guess on some level we do, although I would say unless it's a super important keyword, I don't think I would make it my primary focus to do that.
That's a great point. Before I jump into the next question, I just want to take a quick moment to kind of give another quick shout out to our sponsor again today. Is Frisbi. This podcast, the Global Spin Podcast. If you're new to the podcast, we hope you guys subscribe and follow along on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter, or you can find us in your favorite podcast destinations. But this podcast is fueled by Frisbi. It's your ultimate launch pad for global expansion. We don't just guide you through the journey. We hold your hand every step of the way, ensuring your success in conquering international markets. Experience lower shipping costs, tax compliance support, and seamless product compliance reviews. Trust Frisbi to handle importation and ensure door-to-door small parcel delivery to Amazon's FBA locations. Visit Frisbi.com today and unlock your path to global success. thank you for everyone again tuning in and watching us live on our Global Spin Podcast episode today with Elizabeth Greene of Jungler. You can follow and find her at where, Elizabeth? Real quick shout out to you and the Jungler team.
LinkedIn is the best place, although I'm starting to ramp up the YouTube thing.
Ooh, so follow on YouTube right now so you can get the first access to the great content. We have people following and listening right now on YouTube on her channel. And then follow us on Frisbi as well. We have a great episode coming out on her channel coming up. So make sure you take a listen there. Before we wrap up kind of today, I know we've already blown through 45 minutes. I feel like I've asked like 3 questions, that's how PPC goes. It always seems that way. When it comes to cross-border sales, and I'm thinking about this for a lot of people who are starting to dabble in the international water, right? People from Canada or people from Mexico or who are buying from .com. Is there ever a component that you're thinking about campaigns to start targeting either people to in the United States that are localized from different countries, or that you even have campaigns that are focused on a Canadian point of view or a Mexican point of view, or even in Europe, if you kind of go into European marketplace, have a component of in one market you're focused on campaigns that might speak to like if you're in Germany, focused on a French campaign or a French audience in Germany, or a Italian audience in Germany, so on and so forth. Do you ever think about those complexities when it comes to building a brand on those markets?
Yeah, no, definitely. It is an absolute must to do keyword research specific to the market. If you don't, you will end up either one, you're just going to get no impressions because you're trying to target things like nobody's actually using to search,
Right.
or you might get like really wild inefficiencies because you are targeting something that someone's using to search, but just due to the differences in language or culture, it's not actually the product that you're selling. So doing like product and region specific keyword research is 100% a must. And I would also say knowing someone or having someone who knows what they're doing to set up the ads is pretty important.
Right. That's good to know. And then I guess my final question would be, when you're thinking about building your campaigns, right? Like hopefully people are reviewing with their managers or their own brand right now, like of post Prime Day campaigns. Obviously, we're kind of almost a week already removed from it. When you're doing these kinds of reviews, when you're asking about success rates, what are questions that as a brand I should be asking my account manager or my agency? What's kind of those questions that I want to be delving into to make sure that, hey, we're profitable not only, but also how do we grow from this and how do we set ourselves for success for the next event, whether it be Prime Day 2.0, early access, or Q3, Q4? What are we asking so we can learn and grow from there?
Yeah. I would say it's definitely, I think it depends on how much you want to delve into it yourself as the brand owner. So we have certain brands that might like to get into the weeds. I think just speaking from us as an agency's perspective, do the most on is allowing the brands to obviously have influence and help us chart the direction because they know their products very well, and oftentimes like if they were managing it themselves, they kind of knew what worked last year around Prime Day, so that those insights are very helpful. I find where it gets kind of too many cooks in the kitchen is when they go like, oh, we should be building these campaigns or we should be doing these things. Not that they always have. I love having the suggestions, and again, if they were managing it themselves, like they have a great perspective to add. But I think so when it works to like interfacing with the client and maybe the ad manager, and it could be someone internal on your team as well, there definitely has to be one person who's kind of like trusted to chart the direction and the strategy, but then the ways that you all can come together, and the ways that even us as an ad agency, so we're specifically focused on the ads, right? Like we don't do listing optimization in-house, we don't do price adjusting in-house. However, we see a lot of what's going on in your market and what's going on with your ads and how your products are performing on specific searches. Right. So for instance, I'm auditing a brand now and we identified like their top relevant keyword and they don't actually have a good conversion rate on it, which is troubling. because I'm like, this is your exact target market, and yet your product is struggling to convert here. That's an issue.
Yeah.
Not one that necessarily needs to be fixed through ads, nor necessarily, if we're looking for sales growth, needs to have massive ad spend put against something that is inefficient, that should be very efficient. So allowing both of you, the brand owner, to kind of interface, again, it could be an internal team member, it could be another agency, or maybe you have a freelancer, and say like, hey, I'm looking to heavily invest in this product line, or I'm looking to, or I have invested in this product line, or hey, if we don't move ads here, we're going to end up with increased storage fees, or okay, I'm looking at, maybe launching a blue variation of this product. Is there any search market for that? Like those kind of things that you feel like you don't have insights into, and you're kind of looking for those insights, allowing them to kind of like help you determine that. And then them helping the account manager or the freelancer or the agency to determine goals and objectives is helpful. Because I always, people will come to me like, oh, I want to lower total A cost. Okay, to what? Like, I can go turn off your ads today and I can guarantee you 0% total A cost. But is that achieving So what is the objective? Do we have profitability objectives? Do we have, like I said, a lot of our brand owners are looking for sales growth. So what are the sales growth objectives? What products move you there? Are we invested in inventory to get there? And having those kind of conversations where neither one has to cross over and do the other one's job, but you can interface together, and then so you end up with a much better ad strategy and a much better business at the end of it.
Gotcha. Great information, and obviously something you should have a conversation with for the people who are running your ads. And again, let the people do their job. I'm going to speak this from no one's tied to me. I'm not running any ad agency here. Let the ad experts do their jobs. Don't go in and tweak what they've or undone what they do. We want to make sure that we're letting the experts do their jobs. And if you have suggestions, that's great, but don't outdo it, or keep people communicate with people, and ultimately they're trying to do what's best for you, the customer, and just openly communicate. Like you said, get your goals in line and constantly talk and explain what you're trying to achieve. My light keeps turning on the background. I apologize for anyone who's freaking out, or if they have sensitivities to light. I don't know what's going on. I need to either unplug it or replug it in or something like that. But if you're my final question, Elizabeth, for people listening and kind of watching today, there's this new certification program that are coming out in the ads ecosystem. It's under Learning Console and under Amazon advertising. It's something interesting that actually applies to global expansion and global growth. But it's the Amazon Ads Advanced Retail Certification, which came out and published on June 30th. It's something I'm actually thinking about taking myself, just to understand the complexities. But the topics for this certification are optimizing through product detail pages for retail readiness, driving brand discoverability through Amazon growth levers, expanding to international markets, and fostering customer loyalty through promotions, and planning with retail insights and analytic tools. I read that and it was not for the top of my head, so I'm using a screen over here, everyone. But your thoughts on Amazon promoting more of these certifications for either agencies or brands to understand, hey, these are the growth levers that you should be aware of, and really education wise, how they're pushing these kind of these new levers, or I guess in certification. Is this something that people should be aware of? Should they take it? Should they just let the ad experts kind of take advantage of it? What's kind of your first take when you see and hear about this?
So I mean, I definitely am all for them offering certifications. I think that I really am appreciative. It seems to me, I could be wrong, but they're pushed to kind of like increase and also kind of like build out their documentation on some things, which I think is highly helpful. And so I'm definitely all for it. And I don't think there's any issues of a brand owner going through it. Like if you have the time, I mean, let's be honest, everyone's only got so many hours a day.
Let me see. It breaks it down. Oh boy. 1725. These are minutes. I'm gonna read out loud. Each course certification step is 1725, 1741, 35, 15. And then I believe an Amazon Advanced Retail Certification assessment is 2 hours. So I'm gonna just round up a ballpark and say 5-ish hours.
Yeah, I mean, which is not terrible. I would say if you are going to outsource something, be it learning, be it data entry, be it discovery, being it someone giving you insights into some system of your business or something, the most important thing that you need is trust in the individual or the system or the software that you, because if you're outsourcing, say, learning or understanding or comprehension, then you have to fully trust that whoever is giving you that information is going to be correct in their assessment.
Right.
So I would say I don't think, and as a brand owner, again, me as an agency owner, I can't do everything at once. But then again, like I said, I have my account managers who came up with, getting our bestseller badge back, or we have another account manager who came up with like a budget optimization system that's absolutely crushing it and helping us achieve profitability. So if you lean on good people, you actually can exponentially increase your possibilities. You just have to make sure they're good people.
Yep. Good point. It's always about the people, the processes, and make sure everything works well cohesively together. So that's all I got for us today, Elizabeth. I would love to kind of ask you, I know you have a lot of cool things that are happening on your channels and your educational platforms as well. Tell me about your you have like a weekly Q&A, is that correct, of something?
Yes, I had originally said I was going to try and do it 5 days a week. I think I'm not going to kill myself. I might end up ramping up to 5 days a week, but essentially, and I don't really have a central place for it, but there is a Q&A form going around somewhere that allows you to submit an Amazon advertising question. At the very least, weekly I'm doing it. And there's actually 2 of our YouTube videos. One of them I'm going to publish today. That actually my answers were way too long to be able to fit it into like a 5-minute selfie video. So I ended up doing a whole YouTube video on it. So if you want to ask an Amazon advertising question, that would be the best way to submit it. And you'll definitely get on the list.
Cool. And just follow you on YouTube or LinkedIn, and I'm sure it'll be
links. Yeah. And if you submit the form, there's a place for you to fill out your email. So when I do answer it, I will directly email you if you submit an email.
Awesome. That's awesome. And people can find that on your website, your social channels. Make sure you follow Elizabeth.
Yes, mostly social channels. I think LinkedIn, I've been tagging it hashtag, I think, Jungler Answers. So you should find all the form links in the comments there.
Awesome. So for people listening on after the fact that we're live, or if you're listening to this on your favorite platform, go ahead and search us Jungler. You said Q&A, or what was it? Jungler Answers. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And they can find the link there, and make sure you follow Elizabeth as well on all the social channels as well. Hey, thanks so much for hopping on today and kind of answering my questions about PPC. Things are always popping up, and it feels like it's the most contentious topic that people want to talk about, but also the most confusing. So I appreciate you kind of shining light and inviting yourself and people on your channels here to join us today. So I appreciate it, as always, for being a guest on our podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone. Again, I'm going to go and close up for the day if I can. There you go. Press buttons are a little bit hard today. There's always this technology failures that are going on around me for whatever reason, but I appreciate you hopping on the Global Spin podcast. If you're new to the channel or haven't heard of our podcast, follow us on all of our social channels. That'd be LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. LinkedIn and YouTube are my favorite channels. You can engage with Ryan Cramer. That's me, the host of this podcast, on all of your channels. Just search for myself, and I post content all the time. And then also just follow Frisbi. Again, this episode and podcast is fueled by Frisbi. It's a global expansion platform helping Amazon sellers with their expansion and growth needs. Go ahead and follow us at frisbi.com/the Global Spin Podcast. That's where you can follow all of our past episodes, listen to them, and we're available to answer your questions. So that being said, I'm Ryan Cramer. This is the Global Spin Podcast. Make sure you follow us and tune into the next time we have another episode live on air, or we release it on our social channels. Take care, everyone.